聞こえの未来。
聞こえの未来をご視聴いただき誠にありがとうございます。オーティコン補聴器の田中です。
茨城大学教育学部の田原です。
どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
今日私たちはデンマークのオーティコン本社に来ています。今日ここではですね、素晴らしい研究者の皆様にインタビューできますので、私もとても楽しみにしています。皆さんにもぜひお楽しみいただければと思います。
はい、じゃあ行ってみましょうか。
In this video, we would welcome to Dr. Soren Laugesen and Sebastian Sandret as our guests. So could you tell us about yourself briefly?
Hello. Yes, my name is, as you say, Søren Laugesen, and I'm the research manager for the Interacoustics Research Unit. So we are a small group dedicated to research, located separately from the Interacoustics company. So we're living in the Technical University of Denmark to work closely together with the hearing systems group there.
Hi. How about you?
Konnichiwa, hello everyone, I'm happy to be here with you today. My name is Sebastian Sandret and I work at the Center for Applied Audiology Research at Oticon. I've been involved in hearing science for quite some years at the Technical University of Denmark and Copenhagen University Hospital as well. And in our team we work with auditory science and technical audiology, and our role is also one of our roles to bridge the gaps and bring diagnostics and the hearing aids together, so they work together. And I'm working on the hearing aid side and also together with Søren.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for your introductions. And I think that Søren, since this is probably the first mention of interacoustics IR unit in this video program, and could you briefly describe them a little bit more?
Yeah, so Interacoustics is a company within the DMAT group, which also has Oticon and several other brands. But Interacoustics focuses on diagnostic equipment, so both in hearing and balance. But within hearing, we have essentially the full range from fitting products and diagnostic products, a lot of electrophysiology and tympanometry and those sort of products.
Okay, thank you. And I is located at Technical University of Denmark, and when I was there, we worked on the same floor. Yeah, so I miss it very much. Yeah. And Sebastian, I think you have been to Japan many times, and the other day we met in my university and we had a soba lunch together. It was a very good time for us. Okay, so by the way, the reason I invited to you both here is because we are interested in a new test called ACT, and you both are involved in development of the test. So would you first give us an overview ACT?
Yeah, so ACT is a new diagnostic test of hearing which will inform the audiologist about a person's ability to do speech and noise, so how well people will perform in speech and noise situations with their hearing aids out in the real world in complex listening situations. So it's a test that considers audible sounds, and that is one of the reasons why it's called the audible contrast threshold test.
And this test is very important because we know that hearing in noise is the #1 complaint of people with hearing loss when they come to see someone in the clinic, to see an audiologist and a professional. So it's very important to diagnose this in the right way and to be able to predict how they're going to do with the hearing aid, so we can also adjust the hearing aid features accordingly. And this is one of the very new things with ACT, is that it's the first test of this hearing in noise ability that we can use to adjust the hearing aids features based on the result.
Oh, so it's so amazing to hear that. And why you developed ACT? So could you tell us about the background a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So for many, many years, half a century, researchers both in industry and academia have been looking for something to add to the audiogram, because the truth is that for more than 100 years we have been fitting hearing aids only based on the audiogram, so pure tone thresholds, and any audiologist knows that a hearing loss is so much more than the inability to hear soft sounds. But the research from the past was not very successful. Many different measures were tried, but they really didn't have any predictive power over interesting outcomes such as speech and noise. But then finally in the early 2010s there were some studies coming out that was showing interesting correlations between spectrotemporal modulation detection and speech and noise measures. So the research that we have been involved in has been about taking those first promising research results and turning that into a viable clinical test that can be used with anybody.
Okay, so it's so very interesting. And what principles are applied in ACT? So what is the audible contrast threshold, and how can we use the ACT values into hearing aid fittings?
So the ACT value that you get from the test is one number, and that's also something that is in a way very simple, but the idea was to reproduce a test that looks like the audiogram as much as possible, both for the audiologist and for the patient. So it uses the same equipment, and you get a value on a dB scale that is specific to the test and that has been developed and normalized to normal hearing performance, just like the audiogram has its own dB HL scale. ACT, the audible contrast threshold, has a dB NCL normalized contrast level scale. So the higher the number, the more difficulty the person has to hear in noise. And what we found in our studies, in our research studies that were conducted internationally, actually also in Japan, in Germany and in Japan, we found that if you take ACT, the ACT value, together with the audiogram of the patient and their age, you can actually predict how well they are going to do when you apply gain in the hearing aids in terms of speech and noise. So you can use this value in the fitting software. It can be imported automatically to adjust how much support in noise, so like noise reduction, for example, the hearing aid is going to provide for each patient. So it's tailored, individualized to each patient.
So I see that this is exactly the way to approach the concept of beyond audiograms, so which cannot be determined by hearing test alone. So it sounds like there are many benefits to fitting hearing aids. And I heard that you are going to give us a short demonstration of the ACT.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, so let's
Looking
go.
forward to that.
So now let's start the ACT demonstration.
Yeah, so we are ready to do the ACT test. What you will hear is episodes of noise, and every now and then there will be a siren-like sound added to it, and when you hear that, you press the button. Then as the test goes on, it becomes more and more difficult, but you press the button when you hear the siren-like sound. So please put on the headphones and we'll get started. That's it. That was the ACT test.
Thank you, Soren. And it's a very simple and easy test. And then, Sebastian, could you explain the result?
Yes, so now we've performed the test, and as you can see, the result is -1 dB NCL. This is a low ACT value within the normal range between -4 and 4, indicating that the person does not have specific difficulties in noise. If the value was higher, that would mean the patient struggles more hearing in noise. So the next step as the audiologist is to go to the fitting software for the hearing aids, and in the personalization screen here that we have, the ACT value will be imported automatically from the patient database. So here you can see -1 dB NCL. And what it does is that then when you go to the fitting of the hearing aid and to the feature that adjusts the help in noise in the hearing aid, so it's the spatial processing of the sound and the neural noise suppression here for Oticon hearing aids in the more sound intelligence feature, you can see that these settings will be prescribed automatically based on the ACT value of the specific patient. So if the ACT value changes, the patient may get different amount of help in noise. If they struggle more, they will get more noise suppression, for example. So that's very simply how it works.
Yeah, so amazing. And thank you for your great demonstrations.
Thank you.
So, thank you for the great demo. And it is very interesting test. So, and Yuko, do you have any question or comment?
Thank you very much for your wonderful demonstration. I have many questions, but I ask you 2 questions. I encounter many children or people with hearing loss who suffer from their listening disability, especially in noisy situation. So, my first question is whether it is effective for Japanese speakers. And second is, what about children or people with APD or lead, that is auditory processing disorder or listening difficulty with normal hearing? Could you tell me something?
Yes, those are very good questions. So the first question about whether it works in Japanese listeners, I think here we can clearly answer, because we have tested ACT in Japan on the Japanese populations of hearing aid users in Utsunomiya and in Tokyo with Dr. Shinden and Dr. Nishiyama. And what we have found is that the results showed the same predictive power of ACT in the Japanese patients as it was showing in other languages. So yes, it does work with Japanese listeners. And on your second question, what we know is that hearing in noise difficulty is the main symptom of people who have auditory processing disorder or LID, listening difficulties. So we would expect ACT to be able to predict also those difficulties, hearing in noise. But of course, it's a broader spectrum of symptoms and difficulties that these patients may have. So we have not tested yet specifically this population with ACT, but it can still be used to fit hearing aids and adjust the features of the hearing aids for these patients.
Thank you very much. If we can diagnose APD or lead accurately with ACT, it would be helpful for us and for them, and because it takes over 1 hour to take a whole test of APD, auditory processing disorder, or listening difficulty. Thank you very much.
So can I ask one more? I think ACT is developed by using the standardized data of adults. But how about the pediatric field?
Yes, very good question. You're absolutely right that all the studies we've done so far, including the one in Japan, has been with adult patients. And we have no reason to believe it will not work with children, but we haven't really tested it yet. So we need to establish norm data also for younger groups to see how they behave, because we don't know if the maturation of the auditory system could affect ACT performance in these young listeners. So that work remains to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think ACT is very simple test, so children we can adapt the test for children, but some children don't have the good concentration for this, so we maybe change some method for them. But I'm looking forward to that new test or new challenge for the children. Okay. So thank you for joining this interview. So both you and I are so excited to hear your talks, and I'm sure of our viewers also excited to see our videos. So Soren and Sebastian, so thank you very much for great talk and a great demonstration.
Thank you.
Thank you very
It was a
much.
pleasure.
はい。ではソーレンとセバスチャンからはACTについての説明と、あとデモンストレーションもしてもらいました。で、先生実際体験されていかがでしたか？
本当に短い時間で、計測できてすごく便利だなっていう印象でした。で今までの普通に一般的に使っている聴力検査だと静かな環境での聞き取りになってくると思うんですけれども、やっぱり雑音下でどれくらい聞き取れているか拾えているかっていうのを評価するのは重要なことだと思うので、こういう検査をうまく加えていって、聞き取りの状況を、きちんと把握して、そこからサポートだったり、補聴器のフィッティングにつなげていくことが大事だなと思いましたね。
はい、ありがとうございます。で、私は、見ていて驚いたのがやはり結果がもうそのまま補聴器のフィッティングソフトの方に移されて、そこで、ベストなフィッティングを探っていくっていうことがもう流れができているっていうところにすごく未来を感じましたし、先生が質問されたみたいに APD、LID をお持ちの方とか、あとはお子さんに対してACTを対応していくってことはまだ課題が残されているようですが、逆に言うとまだ発展する未来性があるというか可能性があるというふうなことも感じましたので、今後もしっかりこちらもフォローアップしていく必要があるなというのは感じました。
そうですね。はい。情報を発信していきたいですね。はい。ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。
Meet Sarah and Peter, who are both 48 years old. These two individuals are not only the same age, but also have the same audiogram with the same settings. However, their performance and the level of difficulty that they experience in complex listening environments varies. Take, for instance, a cafe environment. Sarah can cope with background noise and can hear speech and noise well. Meanwhile, Peter struggles to hear what his friends are saying to him from across the table. These two individuals require personalised support from the hearing aid to ensure they can both thrive in challenging auditory environments. This is why the Audible Contrast Threshold, or ACT, has been created. ACT is a quick, language-independent test that objectively quantifies your client's speech and noise ability as a single value. Here's how it works. Despite their identical audiograms, Sarah and Peter have different ACT values. Using Oticon Genie 2, we can use a client's ACT value to prescribe the optimal amount of help in noise that the individual requires from their Oticon hearing aids. In this case, Sarah has a mild ACT value of 5 dB NCL, so she needs less help in noise from the hearing aid. Let's hear how Sarah experiences sound in her local cafe.
I met an old friend of mine yesterday. He lives with his wife not far from us. Is it someone I know? No, I don't think I told you about him. I thought he moved away years ago.
This works well for Sarah. On the other hand, Peter has a severe ACT value of 14 dB NCL, so he requires more help in noise from the hearing aid. Let's see how Peter experiences sound in his local cafe.
I met an old friend of mine yesterday. He lives with his wife not far from us.
Is it someone I know?
No, I don't think I told you about him. I thought he moved away years ago.
This works well for Peter. ACT only takes 2 minutes to complete, and the difference it makes is fundamental. Sarah and Peter received two very different settings in their hearing aids at their first fitting, with help and noise personalized just for them. Now they can both hear well. With ACT, you can make a real difference in your client's life by addressing the #1 challenge for those with hearing loss, hearing speech in noise.